I will call the meeting to order. It's 9:03 a.m. Call the meeting to order. I believe we have a quorum present. And we will open it up for public input. I don't believe there's any public here. Veronica, any public online? And then the next bit of business is committee officer elections. And we will be looking to nominate and vote on a DPAC chair. We'll be looking to nominate and vote on a DPAC vice chair, which essentially takes the reins when chair is not present. So that being said, I will open it up to the committee for the chair position nominations or chair position volunteers.
Sorry.
Anybody?
Scott just logged on. I don't think he heard you.
I did not. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So before we cycle back into our first item, I'll give you a heads up too. We've lost John Sneed back in November. He was replaced by council, long-term veteran member. He was our vice chair. Before we could vote on the vice chair, Lynn resigned her position at CFCC, so by default, resigned her position at DPAC. So we have no chair or vice chair. City attorney has allowed me as staff liaison to really conduct and start the meeting to get us to a point of electing these two positions, and then I will pass it on to the presiding chair after we vote, nominate, and vote. So before you logged on, I just opened it up for nominations or volunteers for the DPAC chair position.
Chance, do you basically just need somebody to run the meetings? What does DPAC chair entail?
Pretty much, that's the brunt of the role. It's running the meetings.
I would just say it's somebody that's normally there in person all the time is my only thought, which I can't commit to.
Someone with experience.
What did Michael say? I'm sorry.
Someone with experience. And I said that looking across the room.
Michael, would you like to nominate Christina?
She's just too perceptive. Yeah, but I'm like, Christina, I would like to nominate you for risk of stringing any small friendship you might have. Yeah. I would nominate Christina.
So on the floor, we currently have a nomination for Christina Haley, WDI. Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Don't forget about the volunteer effort. All right, with that said, I think since there's only one nomination, I think by default, it becomes Christina, but we'll take a motion or a vote to approve Christina as the new chair of DPAC.
So do that.
So Michael moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott. Do we have a round of yays?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
That's a yay from everyone, it sounds like, correct? All right, I'll take that as a correct. All right, Christina, before I hand it over to you, I'll just take the vice chair, just the process, and then we'll hand it over to you to take the rest of the meeting. How about that? Give you a few minutes to kind of get your stuff, get everything together for the proceeding. All right, so we have a new chair. Thank you, everyone. So on the floor now, I'd like to take nominations for the vice chair position. Really, vice chair position is conducting, taking the helm of procedural meetings, when the chair is not present, happens every once in a while each year. So that being said, are there any nominations for the vice chair or volunteers for the vice chair position?
I don't mind volunteering to do it if we need somebody.
All right, that's a volunteer from Scott Monroe. Anybody else? Any other nominations, volunteers? All right, we'll close the nominations and take a motion to approve Scott as vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
And a round of yays for the votes.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds like it passes unanimously.
Who moved and who second?
I think Michael's second.
I did just second.
Who moved?
I did, Christina.
Okay, with that being said, I will hand over the meeting to our new chairperson.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Before we approve the minutes, are there any public here present, either in person or virtually, that would like to speak? With no public present, we'll move on to approval of our meeting minutes from November of last year, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes unless any changes need to be made?
A motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. With that, the meeting minutes are approved, unanimous. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, forgive me. This is my first rodeo.
Sorry. Eventually becomes like riding a bike.
All right, next on the agenda is new business, and I will hand that over to our parking team.
All right, I'll take that one, Madam Chair. First item up is new parking lot operations. What we're looking to do here today, we're asking DPAC to really approve activation of public parking at 3 new properties downtown that the city has purchased over the last few months. First one's going to be 201 North Water Street. That is the old Coast Guard property that the city just closed on back in September. Second is 320 North Front Street, which is a small surface lot across from the Cotton Exchange. It's been leased out to the Cotton Exchange, I think, for the past 20 plus years. And the third is 820 North 2nd Street, which is the Salvation Army parking lot, and the portion of the old Salvation Army property that is still acting as a surface parking lot. And I'll go through these individually so you can have details of what we've purchased and kind of what we're going to try to attempt to activate on the public parking side. First up is 201 North Water Street, which is the old Coast Guard property. City closed on this property, I believe, late August, early September 2023. There are currently funded plans for a portion of this property. There's a little map on the left of the screen there. The area, basically the blue, green, red, and kind of the connecting piece that's not highlighted is the property as a whole. And I've just for informational purposes, I've separated into 3 colored sections there, just so the committee can understand what's happening, because it's a little tricky and a little confusing. So before city purchased the Coast Guard property, they already had plans to do a streetscaping and improvement project on the southern portion of this property, which is essentially the old Water Street Park, or Old Riverfront Park, I think it was called, before we developed a new one on the north end. This is the old original Riverfront Park. So now that we do own it, there are plans in place for the blue section for streetscaping along Water Street, as well as improvements to kind of the concrete portion of that parcel there that goes, basically essentially runs from Princess down to Market Street. The plans are a little dated. They were put on hold because the Dalton Lennon Courthouse work that happened after Hurricane Florence. So what we're doing now currently, we're reviewing those plans, getting input, engineering's getting input from community services team. Eventually that's going to go back to council, and most likely, if there's not significant changes, we'll see that portion bid out and mobilize for improvement and construction potentially end of this calendar year, so fall of 24. At the same time, the green sliver there that borders the red parking lot is the bulkhead that was repaired by the Coast Guard right before the acquisition of the property. And there's still some remaining repairs that need to be, safety repairs that need to be completed on that bulkhead portion there. And that is also going to go out to bid probably late spring, early summer, thereabouts, for that portion of that work. Long term, from the northern piece of the blue property, which is essentially the green, red, and what's not highlighted, the goal there would be to fund and plan for probably a complete rehab improvement project there, whether it be park or some kind of funded larger project there in the future and long term. So what that leaves us with in the interim is a 36 space surface parking lot that's sitting there empty right now, and definitely has some service demands in that area. So what we would like to do is plan for temporary public parking in 2024, basically in between the Southern project and the Bulkhead project. And then what will happen there most likely is if DPAC's in support, council is in support, we'll open that up for public parking. We'll close a portion of it for the bulkhead work because they'll mobilize and probably work from that parking lot out toward the water for some of those repairs. And then as the southern streetscaping portion gets mobilized and completed, there's a potential we'll completely close that parking lot for a period of time so that that contractor can have lay down materials and a place in that area to mobilize for that southern portion of that work. And then when that portion is completed, we'll open back up pretty much full-time parking operations until the entirety of the northern portion of that property is funded and planned for improvements. So with that being said, we would be looking to contract with Pivot Parking for parking operations. We would offer both daily and monthly public parking. Monthly public parking, when offered, would be offered with a disclaimer that this lot could close intermittently during the first 2 projects. So that would certainly be a 30-day monthly parking license, and all of those folks that we offered and sold those spaces to would get that disclaimer as they signed up. And for the daily parking, our recommendation is to set this parking lot up with the identical parking fees that are currently at the 2nd Street parking lot and the Living Flynn parking lot, which starts at $2 for up to 1 hour, maxes out at $12, and then all day Saturday and Sunday, $12. And then the monthly fee is $75 per month. So before, I know there's a lot of information to pack in on this one with intermittent projects and kind of short-term and long-term goals of this property. Before we move on to 320 North Front Street, are there any questions on this one? Mike?
Just 36 spots, that's a lot of, that look like it's a lot of property for just 36 spaces.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back here. So it's just the red portion on the map.
That would be the 36 in the red portion.
Yeah, and you can see how it's kind of, you can see the very faint line striping on this map here.
I can't quite see it, I
Yeah.
apologize. That's-
So the blue is about to go under construction for the streetscaping and really park renovations there. green is the bulkhead. That's really just that docking mooring area that the Coast Guard used to moor to. And the bulkhead there, that's kind of just a walkway safety structural piece that holds this, essentially holds this parcel onto the
Yeah,
to the land there. So the parking lot's just the pink reddish portion, roughly 36 spaces. We might lose a space once we come in and stripe it and add a couple handicap spots. But right now, I think there's 36 spaces.
I misunderstood. I apologize. What need does this serve?
In terms of parking, I think courthouse parking, number one. Daily courthouse visitors, the Water Street Center is right there across the street. We lost when we did the River Place project and the 100 block, 200 block, 300 block Water Street streetscaping improvements there during that project. We lost 2 block faces of parking. Basically, they widened the sidewalks, and we lost a block right in front. Lost a whole block face in front of the Water Street Center, and then we lost a block face in front of the River Place development. So we lost some parking a few years ago. This brings it back at least temporarily. Add some parking and just general centralized location for some parking. We've already got calls.
I would say, I don't know if it's happened to anybody else, but with all the events that get held at the Hotel Ballas, they charge $25 to park there. So if you're not staying at the hotel, you now have a closer place. And obviously with what you're about to share about the Cotton Exchange parking lot, that's going to be a big help because they'll have hundreds of people show up to the Hotel Ballast for events. And
It's got the northern piece of this property essentially touches the southern end of the Ballas's parking lot there. And we've already gotten calls, as soon as word spread that the city was purchasing, we've already gotten calls from at least 3, maybe 4 merchants in the Water Street Center, right across the street there, that are either parking at River Place, or essentially parking out or elsewhere. So, another thing too is that surface lot across the street, which is not owned or managed by the city, is very pricey. I think they start at $5 to $6 for the first hour. So what this also does is just give a city operated parking asset in the interim with an affordable price for the public fee class.
One final question. There's a Veterans Memorial Park right there. Where is it? I can't quite remember.
It's basically the in between of the Ballas property and what we're talking about. So it's kind of like right here where my cursor is. This is a very old map, so it almost looks like a street cutting across here, but that's the park right there. So right now it remains, my assumption is once there's a potential design of the entirety of this or some improvements that would get incorporated into any future improvements.
Hey, Chance.
Yes, sir.
No matter what happens, I'm obviously in favor of having parking here. I just tried to pick up pizza from Melon Mushroom yesterday. I had to park in the River Place deck, which I don't know why it annoyed me so much, but it did. But one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about with public parking, especially here on Carolina Beach, you may have noticed that people hate paying for parking, Chance. And I think part of the issue is that they don't understand what that parking revenue is going to. I think they think maybe DPAC is just shoveling it all into our pockets or something. So there's a disconnect between why am I paying for parking and what good does this do? What I think would be really cool, and maybe we could do it in this one little micro opportunity, is to earmark and hang a sign that says all profit generated from this lot goes to the funding of, this future park, which is going to go right here. I don't know if that's practical or doable or whatever, but I think it'd be a cool story, and certainly would give us good justification for opening up that riverfront property to parking, and maybe be a neat little pilot program for PR purposes.
Yeah, okay, it's actually not a bad idea.
So what do you mean actually not a bad idea, Chance? I have some good ideas.
This one's actually not that bad, so we'll see what happens on the next idea. It's interesting that you bring this up because it's something we'll have to discuss. I'll have to discuss with the manager's office as well as the finance director. You know, the three properties we're talking about here today, two of which are new acquisitions. The other is an older parcel that's obviously generated parking income, not for the enterprise fund, but for the general fund. So it's interesting that you bring that up. This is obviously something we could discuss with the manager's office and get, you know, the finance director's input as we progress with this, as to where these funds go. And yeah, maybe they don't need to go into the enterprise fund, which is pretty healthy. Maybe they go toward a greater good here.
Yeah, or we just try it in this one little lot. I think if we make it public that, you know, this lot is going to fund the park, I think people will go out of their way to park there and hang a sign, and, you know, it'll be something, and maybe it's not, but you're only, you know, kind of betting on 36 new spots, so it's not like you're losing a whole lot.
Yeah, we haven't run a performer on this one. I ran a performer on the next one at 320. Because we got just a little bit of data there. I mean, I think we could roughly gross, you know, I think we could potentially have a net income of roughly, I don't know, $40,000-$50,000 on top of expenses paid and everything here. So it's a sizable chunk of revenue that could go toward the park. So yeah, so noted. Good idea. Anybody else before we move on to the next one? And I'm just going to hold the motions until we go through all three. So. All right, next is 320 North Front Street. 20 spaces, surface lot at the corner of Walnut and North Front. This is a store that has been leased directly to the Cotton Exchange, I believe, for at least 20 years. The earliest lease I could find in my files was 2002, 2003, I think. I think it may go prior to that, but in my files, at least a 20-year-old relationship there. We gave them a 1-year extension last year with the context that most likely we weren't going to renew this lease with the city taking over the parking operations this calendar year. And really the goal here is to improve utilization by offering public parking in addition to the Cotton Exchange's use here. I think our plan would be to back lease to the Cotton Exchange tenants there that have been parking there, many of them for many, many years. At the exact same rate. They were already charging those tenants $75 for these spaces. They were reserved, so it was a one parker, one-time use. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with this lot, but anytime I've driven by this property on any given day or any given time, it's nearly 50% empty, especially at night. It's essentially a ghost town. There's maybe 1 or 2 cars there. So improved utilization was priority number 1 here. And also we felt that we could bring in more revenue by running it ourselves. I think the lease of the Cotton Exchange was slightly below market. We're going to backfill that revenue that we were getting with the monthly parkers, and then with the daily transient use revenue coming in is anticipated to exceed what we were making off of that annual lease to the Cotton Exchange. And same with the previous lot, we'd be looking to contract the parking for the operations and essentially keeping those parking fees exactly the same as the previous Coast Guard lot and the 2 that we were already running at 2nd Street Hannah Block, with the $2 to $12 and the monthly fee of $75 per month. And I think this one's a potential long-term, just for FYI purposes. I think the goal here would not to operate this as a parking lot long-term. I think at some point, the city would probably like to sell this property and potentially develop this at some point.
Dibs. It's a good property for development, and I don't know what the process is for that, but most of the properties the city now owns are not good for development. This one would be.
And I'll swap, actually, I'll wait till the end to go to this map, just so I can show everyone what we're working with. Before we move on to the North Second Street, any further questions on this one?
Are there any improvements for that wall?
Yeah, we're planning for that lot. High level improvements across the board. We would stripe it, make sure we're ADA compliant. I believe we would be looking to put in new wheel stops, not in every lot, but I think Front Street and Coast Guard would be putting in wheel stops. And we just have to assess the lighting, at all. There's a possibility of some lighting improvement, especially at the Coast Guard. We have to see what the infrastructure is at the North Front Street right now. I know there's lighting on Walnut, lighting on Front, and maybe lighting next door at that other private service lot. But we'd have to look to see what the infrastructure is on lighting.
It'd be great to get a little bit of landscaping improvements there as well, so we can tie in with the North Front Street Improvement Project.
Sure.
It's,
Yeah.
it's a little bit dreary on that side of the sidewalk.
That's obviously something we could do. And last but not least, 820 North Second Street, which is the former Salvation Army property. City ownership, I believe early summer of 24, that's incorrect. City ownership, early summer, late spring of 2023, ahead of my time there. Very similar 34 space surface lot. Remains on the property after the demolition of the physical structure. And this one a little bit different, since we now own 1,000 space parking deck right across the street from here that can service pretty much all of our daily public parking needs for the foreseeable future. We are only planning on opening this property up for parking just during special events, concerts, and other civic events. Azalea Festival, Riverfest, kind of an as needed. So the plan would be for the 35 or so Live Nation concerts, Azalea Fest, and any other kind of civic type needs for that lot. Contract with Pivot Parking, again, that would be a per event cost and operation on their side. And then the recommended parking fees would be a $10 special event rate for the smaller concerts and some civic events, and then the $20 special event rate for the larger concerts and any other larger events that we foresee happening out there. And before we take a motion, I will just show you guys a visual of what we've been talking about. Some of you probably know exactly where everything is, but some of you may not. So this is an old visual of the Coast Guard parking lot here along North Water Street. This was before the River Place project, as you can see to the right, the cutter sitting there. So before the Coast Guard left Wilmington. But this is essentially the surface lot that remains here, 30 or so spaces. The Walnut parking lot, which is kind of hidden over here to some, it's corner of Walnut or 320 North Front Street, corner of Front and Walnut. Right here on the corner, right there next to CFCC, across the street from the Con Exchange. And then the Coast Guard property on the north end. This was before we demoed the building, but 34 space lot that still remains through here. All right, let me get back to the PowerPoint. All right, with that being said, are there any questions from DPAC as well? I think we'd be looking for one motion to support the new lot operations, a contract amendment with Pivot, and then also a support of the recommended parking fees that were noted in the presentation.
All right, thank you, Chance. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to support the new parking lot operations, support a contract amendment, and support the recommended parking fees.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Who
Right.
second?
Veronica, that was Troy, that second.
Chance, should I follow up with Tom, or maybe just me and you? How do we talk about using an experimental lot? Maybe I'll give you a call after this if you
Yeah,
hate
give
the
me a
idea.
call
Just
for
let me know.
this. I think I'll have to run it up the chain on my side, and also talk to finance director on that as well.
Any other questions? All right, hand it off back to Chance for the fiscal year 25 budget.
All right, quick review. That time of the year again on the city side, lot going on with budget development. What I'd like to do here today is just a very high level synopsis of what we're looking at on the parking side. And then next month, bring back kind of the nitty gritty of where our parking fee recommendations lie for this year. So that DPAC can weigh in, review, and then weigh in. But right now, looking at a base budget of 8.2 million. That's inclusive of the debt service. New initiatives that we're looking at and or really cost increases. We are looking to expand the security camera system at the new Skyline parking facilities, which is the old Thermo Fisher PPD property when we purchased the parking deck and then the parking underneath the building. There is security cameras in place that luckily tie into our current system, which is great, but there's not many of them. It's really a visual of the main access points, the lobbies, entry exits, and that's it. So the core of those parking facilities really don't have any visual right now on the security camera side. So we're assessing that now. We don't really know what that cost is going to be. We've got maybe $200,000 still in a project that can help fund this. So there could be some additional needs in terms of the funding for that. We've seen some substantial credit card fee increases over the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months. I think number one, the usage and paying with credit cards is still steadily increasing. As we're shifting more to the Textapart app usage, that's obviously driving credit card use. And then just overall, these processor fees are consistently increasing and through the roof. I think OnStreet's a good example where what we projected out and what we were seeing previously, I think we're still up about 20 or 30% of what we projected in terms of this credit card costs. So I think we're looking at an overall increase without shifting some money around within funds, probably about $100,000 difference when we forecast next year. That's mainly associated to the OnStreet credit card usage. Another big one is property insurance costs. Property insurance at River Place, the parking portion increased significantly this year. We're projecting an increase next year, and also just putting in, I think, a 15 to 20% contingency in there just in case it goes up higher than we're anticipating. Same with Market Street, same with the rest of our structures. So projecting out about a $200,000 delta in terms of what we're paying for property insurance this year versus what we're projecting out next year. The new surface lot operations haven't been factored into that $8.2 million budget, so that's going to increase the numbers a little bit, but revenues coming in will balance that out. So I don't see that there's really going to be an ask for that. It's just going to bump the number up a little bit. And then we're also potentially looking to fund some downtown initiatives through the parking budget. That is to be determined what that is going to be right now. But just for DPAC's purposes, I don't think we discussed this last year, but into the budget cycle, moving into council adoption, one initiative that was funded from parking to the general fund that essentially goes to help the betterment of downtown. We allocated $250,000 of parking revenue funds and expenses to the recycle and trash services downtown team to help increase their entry pay rate for their team. They were having lots of challenges, attracting new employees, keeping employees, and so on. So there's a one-time transfer plan this year as well as next year, and most likely moving forward. And that's coming from the parking budget. We're potentially looking to do a few more of those things. And the idea is, as we put in, if we have some extra revenues coming in, as we put in some funding for beautification, whether it's landscaping, increasing wages for other city services that are really actively working on downtown as a whole, the better downtown, the more downtown improves and the more we can help downtown improve, which would then turn into more tourism, which essentially turns into more parkers downtown. So it's a nice, happy cycle there. So I will bring back some ideas or really recommendations from our side, staff side on any extra downtown initiatives planned for this year that could potentially be funded by parking. And then the parking fee revisions. We recommended to the council a 3-year cycle 2 years ago. We are on year 2 currently, and year 3 would be coming up next fiscal year, July 1. And there's a few new faces here in the committee, but those of you that were around two plus years ago when we first started talking about this, we kind of alternated years. Year 1 was a pretty intensive increase across the board. I think we hit every location, nearly every fee line across the board. Year 2, we took a break. There were only a few that were increased, including the on-street. And then year 3, a little less intensive than year 1, but we're hitting a lot of those locations and a lot of those fee lines on the recommendation, at least in that 3-year plan. So we'll bring that back to you for really full discussion, full review. And also something we haven't touched in a long time, probably predates me, is right now the overtime parking citation is $20. That is less than if you were to park and pay the meter all day, which is $23 and some change. So we most likely will be recommending to increase the overtime citation fee from 20 up to something. And probably what we'll do is we'll put some calculations in of what that revenue looks like if we were to increase it to 25, maybe up to 30, and maybe up to 35. So the committee can see what that impact could mean financially and revenue wise for the citation fee. And just as a point of clarification, the parking fees are in council's adopted fee schedule every year that houses all of the city's fees. Parking citations and parking violations are actually in city code, so that wouldn't be through the budget process. That would actually be a council agenda item and recommendation from staff to council on a Tuesday night agenda. So a little bit different of a process there. With that said, happy to answer any questions anyone might have on this one.
Are the credit card fees, is that just pass through? We're not adding any sort of percentage on top of that. Whatever we get charged is okay.
Yeah, we set up our contract. We had already been doing that with credit cards prior to our new contract with Pivot Parking, but new contract as a whole, other than a handful of items that are inclusive in their flat management fee, it's 100% pass through.
Okay.
So basically, they pay on behalf of the city, and then we see those processing fees come directly from Pivot to us, and we cut them a check for that exact amount down to the penny.
Okay, perfect.
Going once, going twice.
All right, we'll move on to old business. Chance again.
Okay, just want to touch base and bring this one to the forefront again. And I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this one today, but I wasn't sure how long we were going to take with a lot of discussion. We had the elections and a few other items. So our plan here would be with the North 4th Street corridor and potential additional managed parking in this area is to kind of just very, very high level go over what we've done. Jeff has done an extraordinary job behind the scenes, as well as a lot of efforts from our parking contractor. And then probably next month, bring some meat to this subject and really start looking at data, potential parking options, and so on up here. So as most of you know, from, I think, Red Cross heading north on 4th Street and those cross street blocks, I think are the 300 blocks of, say, Davis, Harnett, Hanover, et cetera, and 4th Street from Red Cross north heading all the way up. Essentially, doesn't have any actively managed parking in those blocks. We've added on-demand enforcement a couple years ago, just for safety type infractions. Someone parking on the bridge, someone in no parking zone, someone parking in the wrong direction, stuff like that. That's really just been on demand. If you see it, we'll call in pivot parking, or if they see it, that type of thing, and their team cycles in occasionally on foot. And the corridor's changed quite a bit in the last, it's definitely in the last 8 years that I've been here, and even more so in the last few years. And then our previous chair had really been pushing for us to look at this and see what we can do in terms of actively managing parking up there. When I say managed parking, it's do we look at putting meters up there? Do we look at putting time restrictions? At the same time, as we're looking at all this, do we bring in the traffic engineering team to paint, stripe, sign, just to kind of organize the parking up there at times? It's the wild, wild west up there, especially at night. There's cars parked all over the place, in no parking zones, blocking curb stops. It's at times. There's also just a different parking dynamic up there. It's in the central business district, no different than Front Street is, but through the years, it's been kind of soft development, and it's a wider mix of more residents in that area, more so than, say, Front Street, zoned the same. So it's a more diversified use, heavier on the residential side. So coming in and dropping in parking meters may not be the solution, so we're going to try to look at this very, very, very detailed, and really not necessarily give any recommendations from the city staff side anytime soon. We just want to lay out what we've done, the data we've collected, and kind of throw out the options and what we see could happen up there, and really take time to, if we do make any changes in this corridor, do it right, do it one time, and make sure we're all on board for the right reasons. Jeff and team have been taking quite a bit of occupancy counts on these blocks. Started, I think, January of last year, intermittently with the previous parking contractor. Pivot has spent some substantial time. So we'll be bringing some data to you to show you kind of the busiest blocks, what times those blocks are busy, why they're busy. I'll also be bringing to you what we think is some parking options, anywhere from do nothing at this time to meters, to what kind of meters, to hourly and strict restrictions, and so forth. And also what we feel is kind of the positives and negatives of any implementation. And we'll be looking for substantial feedback from the group here as we progress up there. So a lot of work's been done, and hopefully next month we'll add this to a reoccurring agenda item, so we can kind of start chiseling away on what a good comprehensive plan could be up here.
Chance, what's the timing on the 4th Street Bridge replacement?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I don't think it's soon, but I can ask that question to the engineer.
If there's valuation of that corridor, might that be taken into consideration as well?
Yeah, I believe it's in city engineering's queue in terms of funding and timeline. I'm not sure.
And as far as improvements are concerned, if that's going to be replaced, and you guys see surface improvements and striping as part of that project, I don't know if it would likely tie in. And then there's also a very strong community of business owners in the Brooklyn Arts District. They hold monthly meetings as the team evaluates that corridor. It may be good to drop in and speak to that group,
Sure.
maybe in the line of fire, but
I agree. Yeah, we need the idea here is if we make changes, whatever those changes may be, it's, you know, we're gonna do it for the right reasons and also take community input best we can. I assume we will be in the line of fire. But what we will hopefully be doing will also not only, we're a little retroactive in terms of making some of these changes, but also proactive in making some potential changes too, because you still got 3 or 4 very large empty parcels. And if you were to drop 3 or 4 large residential developments onto those parcels, you're now, sometimes parking challenges are going to become nearly everyday parking challenges when you have an extra 400 or 500 cars on the street. So,
Yeah, those lots are for sale, and it's 2 lots north of the bridge that are for sale. Aren't the developers, would they be tasked with addressing parking concerns? Who was that?
yes and no, there's no parking requirements I think in the CBD, and I think it touches a piece of the UMX there. I think most of those parcels there are CBD and there are no parking requirements. So, I would say it would behoove a developer to satisfy a majority of their in-house parking needs, but
But there's no actual requirement that they do so.
there's no requirement. Yeah, you could build, you know, based on zoning and planning rules, you could build say a 200
Unit.
condos on one of those parcels and not put any parking in, so. All right, so we'll bring that one back, moving forward.
all right, next up, we have city administrative reports. And I'll hand that back to
I'll take that
Chase.
one, yeah. Then I'll hand over a piece of this to Jeff and Corinne after this slide.
Great.
My work is done. Quick updates, structural CIP projects at both Market Street and the Convention Center are currently out to bid. I think I've been alluding to this with the group for the last few months. Bids are due, I believe, mid-February, with process to evaluate, award, and most likely take these to council based on the anticipated costs. We're looking at pretty much late spring mobilization for this work. Market Street, mainly waterproofing and expansion joint repairs. There's some concrete repairs, some rusting of the handrails, stuff like that. Top level work's probably gonna be pretty intrusive. The stuff spread throughout the deck, not so bad. So we'll probably lose some parking spaces, definitely lose some parking on the rooftops there at times. Good thing is Market Street's got 2 empty floors during the week, so we've got room to breathe in terms of allowing the work to happen. Convention Center is gonna be tricky. Little less work happening at the Convention Center, but we're gonna have to work around the very irregular reoccurring events at the Convention Center, so that one's gonna be tricky. But most likely both of these starting mobilize late spring, early summer, somewhere in that time frame, and probably 4 to 6 months, pending weather and any kind of stop work we have to do for events or anything like that. And then also Jeff's been working on a small security camera expansion at River Place and Second Street parking decks. Just two areas in the decks that we hadn't covered before. River Place, where we're adding cameras to the service corridor, as well as two stairwells that have some frequent public usage. And then Second Street parking decks, we're also gonna be adding cameras to the pedestrian access points on the first level, and there's stairwells, so we can grab folks coming and going from those areas. And then next up, a bit of good news coming from Jeff and Corinne on our Skyline Center and parking decks up there on the north end.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be speaking with the committee. I first want to commend the committee for getting Christina nominated as our new chairman. I'm looking forward to what she brings to these meetings. I know they got thrown on you, but I think you're an excellent recommendation. So just going to the PowerPoint, we've had power washing handled under the new Skyline Center building area. I'm trying to get used to saying Skyline Center. That's still new to my vernacular, but we've got power washing handle underneath the building. We're making sure that the city council and the mayor and the crowd that parks underneath the building has a clean, serene area to park as they enter the building. We've installed new gated equipment under the building as well. This equipment here is, we have to swipe in and out to leave. In my opinion, we've added a level of security to the patrons that enter that building, going that way to the building, underneath the building. I do want the record to reflect, as we keep going, that the assistant parking manager is very excited about what's going on at the larger deck across the street. I know Veronica runs the notes on that. I want her to add in there. Jeff is very excited about what's going on. The deck across the street, let me just give you the overall lay of it. Your license plate is your permission to park in that deck. The slogan that we're running with, and that kind of lays out the foundation of that area, is park, pay, and walk away. To me, it's a seamless, no nonsense verbiage that helps anybody understand how to navigate that deck. We have signage throughout the deck that helps you understand how to pay. Currently, we have two ways to pay. We need to correct our sign. We've got a text to park option, and then we have a pay station option. Well, one of our signs has a pay by phone app still listed, but there's two ways to pay at that deck: a text to park, or you can visit the pay station. The pay stations take cash or credit cards. The other thing that I want to reiterate while we're talking is that I'm excited for the city employees that use the Skyline Center and the Thermo Fisher employees that use the Skyline Center. When I checked the spreadsheet before I came here, we've got 215 entries for the city employees, and we've got 400 Thermo Fisher employee entries. What I mean by that is there's a form that they fill out to update their license plate information, make, model of their vehicle. We have a LPR camera attached to the golf cart that is going to ride by and scan your license plate to tell if you are allowed to park in the deck. The grand point I'm getting to is this is a big culture change. The city employees and the Thermo Fisher employees so far, okay, in full candor, there's some behind the scenes still trying to navigate it. But for the most part, everybody is on board. They understand what's going on. We are soft rollout, meaning there's no enforcement coming anytime soon until everybody gets a feel for the lay of the land, how to navigate this new system. What I also want to reiterate too is this is supposed to be a futuristic, technological approach to parking. There's no more having to fumble around with your badge to enter. There's no more getting caught at a line waiting to leave when you're getting off of work. There's no more gate arm coming down, hitting your windshield. This is a seamless transition into what the future of parking can be. I'm very excited. The next level to this is picturing a event at Live Oak. You've got an influx of people coming in to see an artist, name the artist, Jelly Roll, Widespread Panic, whoever. They come in, it's a seamless transition to park. You find a spot, you read the instructions on the side of the wall. You text to park or you go to the pay station. Once the event's over, you're able to leave easily. There's no gate holding you back. I'm excited for what the Facebook reviews are going to say about how parking is handling this. I'm looking for some positive press to try to change the narrative of how parking is for downtown Wilmington. Kareem, you want to chime in or did I nail it?
Nailed it.
Okay. Anyway, we have gone gateless over at the PPD Deck Skyline Center. If you have not been over there to visit it, I encourage you to enter with no stress, pay, and leave with no stress. I'm passing the mic on to our new chairman, Christina.
Christina, one couple positive things here. Everyone be on the lookout. Jeff is going to make his camera debut for the city's social media campaign here very soon.
Yes, sir.
On this subject.
Yes, sir.
We're trying to, let as many people know as we can on the why we're doing it and then how to use it moving forward. So be on the lookout for Jeff, and I would say Christina, when that goes public, feel free to grab that and take it on the Bring It Downtown campaign and spread Jeff as wide as you possibly can spread him. So another bit of positive here. If this works, and it will work, and we can roll this out and there's no challenges or minimal challenges, we've essentially also saved the parking fund nearly $400,000 here. The new equipment, new gated equipment and system for us to have put in behind what Thermo Fisher had in there prior, it's going to cost us around $450,000 to $500,000. So I think all in investment right now, with the cost to rip out the gates, the back end software, license plate stuff, the pay station, we spent about $90,000 all in. So the delta between what we may have spent versus what we have spent, it's a savings of roughly $350,000 to $400,000 there. So big difference. Not to mention any long-term maintenance costs of those gates when they get hit, software and all that stuff. So it's not only a cool customer service side of what we're doing here, but also a huge financial positive as well.
Well, first, Jeff, I'm excited to see your face on social media and spread the good word. Second, if there's any room within the messaging, I think the cost savings aspect of this new initiative for the 929 deck is should be shouted from the roof. That's huge.
I am trying to temper expectations while also conveying that this is pretty awesome. And it's going to be, once it, you got to get through about a 6-month window of people getting used to it. My prediction is this is January. By this summer, we will have this thing fine tuned, and I'm looking forward to eventually me and the pivot staff being able to explain how we unveiled this, how we pulled this together for other universities, for other cities to kind of follow what we're doing. So I'm very excited about this endeavor.
That's great. Any other questions or comments? Any other?
I would just say, well done, Jeff. It's really excited to see how it all how it all goes.
Thank you, sir.
Scott, I know you've been pushing us on this idea for how long you've been
Well,
on
it's
the.
just, it's a financial, like, how much money that saves, it's less effort, it's less intrusive, having to wait for gates and fixing gates and all the initial costs, and it's just, there'll always be some process workflows and people that don't, but it'll be a better customer experience.
Yeah, I think we could potentially see us rolling this out one by one at the other facilities. It may work at some, may not work at some. So I think let us get through the opening here, and then we'll start looking at where we can do this elsewhere too.
Yeah, and it gives us some, how are all the camera setups in that building? Like, the cost savings can go into increased security, better cameras, all those things. So that way, after concerts, we have the best possible, highest resolution cameras that feed into the police department's crime center, all that stuff.
I was going to speak to that too today. We did have a very informative presentation by a video provider, Vigilon, excuse me. And they've got the logistics to be able to, if you have a white male with a blue hoodie on, you can just type that in and that can be pulled up on the screen. It can get down to blue sedan, 4-door. We kind of hit on the security that we're going to add to that deck. I would like to see these logistics added to the camera detail as we roll out our new cameras.
That's awesome, Jeff. Is WPD in the room today, Jeff? I can't see the.
Yes, sir. They're here.
Awesome. My only request as a board member would just or a committee member, the parking division coordinates closely with WPD on all these camera feeds and all of that stuff, because they're the only ones that have the true manpower to be manning this and feeding that into their. Are you calling it a crime center over there yet? Is that officially established?
Yes, sir. It's our Sting Center. It's the Real Time Crime Center.
So getting that all into the Sting Center so that they can be watching after concerts and all those things.
Yeah, Scott, they have a feed from every single camera that we have installed. So they've got that ability already. So anything,
that's awesome.
Yeah, anything we add goes straight to them.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I do have a question, Sam Sawyer here, about the Bring It Downtown efforts and encouraging, parking in the downtown area as a whole. As of right now, my understanding is that we're focusing mainly on the 2nd Street deck and the Market Street deck. As we're heading into this next cycle, are we going to be expanding those efforts to North Waterfront and these new parking ventures that will be coming to life?
Sam, this is Christina, and yes, we should be expanding any new parking opportunities that come online within the Central Business District.
Thank you.
And Sam, just a teeny tiny bit of history on that too. Originally, when the Bring It Downtown campaign came on board 7 or 8 years ago, probably longer, that's probably 9 or 10 years now. One of the main focuses of that campaign was the focus on the first hour free. And that first hour free was only at the 2nd and Market Street decks. So that really remained a priority of that program up until 2 years ago when we did away with the first hour free. So that kind of opened up that spread of focus. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And that was the reason to change the initial scope of the campaign from, toting the first hour free to just park and explore. And as all these parking decks or parking opportunities come online, perhaps there'll be some opportunities to explore advertising for the 99 parking deck to go to a concert that's coming up, or there's several new restaurants that are coming online in the marina. So that's a great opportunity to, encourage people to park at that northern deck and also go to these establishments as the north end grows. So you and I can talk about that at some point a little bit more in depth. But thank you for asking. All right, well, no other business and city administrative reports. Let's move on to organization reports, and we'll start with Lieutenant Nichols.
It's gonna be short and sweet. The month of December, we had 154 total criminal charges. That's comprised of arrests and citations for the month. Just some of the big ones. We had 8 drug-related, 3 felony, 5 misdemeanor, 4 DWIs, 16 alcohol-related. The others were trespass, domestic, calls for service, stuff like that. New Year's Eve and MLK parade went off with no issues. It was really, New Year's Eve wasn't as chilly as we would have liked, but like I said, there was no issues. We've been working hand in hand with Jack Morris and his team and Tafana Bradley with the county side, working on a couple of our individuals downtown that are, I guess you could say, frequent flyers. We have gotten them housed in the past 2 weeks, and they are now out of downtown. I met with Ben David and Judge Corpening, also discussed some of these homeless issues downtown, bond amounts, and what we can do to keep these guys out of everybody's hair. So that went rather well, and they were pretty open to some ideas. But other than that, it's been a good one.
Is it like through the year? Is it the same, better, worse? Or is that not an important question?
Reference to the homeless,
Well,
or just in general?
isn't it?
It's really been steady.
Okay.
It's about the same. No, it's not any worse or not any better. It's just,
Any other questions for Lieutenant? All right. Any at-large members or others who wish to speak? Any updates? All right. CFCC, bypass that for now. CDB,
no
bypass for now. All right, DBA.
All right. So as we're heading into the new year, we have our upcoming retreat this weekend, actually, that will be implementing a few new kind of board guidelines and overall planning for the year. So I anticipate next meeting I'll have a little bit more foresight into the future. But the end of last year wrapped up really well. We saw active participation in the holiday decorating contest. Every year we are starting to grow that program more and more. And I think next year there's a lot of opportunity to expand that with the other lighting efforts, all in efforts to bring people downtown. And we elected some new board members, but other than that, I think next month I'll be able to give a more comprehensive direction on where that organization is heading in 2024.
Sam, just for the group, could you update the committee on the new officers and the new board members for DBA?
Yes, Andrea Arth of Arth Real Estate Group has come on board. Give me just 1 second to pull that I think there's one other member, but we did have a lot of internal revote-ins, and Cheryl Hartso is stepping in as the president, with Daniel Pena acting as our vice president. And give me just 1 second, I can circle back around with the additional member. I just want to make sure I have that correct.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just can't remember if it was one person or the other person. And while I'm looking for this, if there's anything you guys would like me to bring to that board at the retreat to align any efforts, please let me know, either via email or if anything pops at the top of someone's head. All right. Gary Coleman has also come on board this year.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Any other updates?
I think that's all from DBA.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, New Hanover County. No. Row.
Really nothing. We'll have elections for new officers in April, I want to say. Next event for us will be a picnic. Generally speaking, that's held at Urban Right, but that's in May. So at the moment, nothing going on.
All right, thank you. All right, as for WDI reports, last week we wrapped up our Holiday Lights pilot project. We spent about $30,000 on this project for this fiscal year. Now looking into possibly expanding that project a little bit more next year. I want to thank Jeff and the parking team for helping assist, bringing in 10 70-gallon bins of lights for storage. We do have all the lights within WDI's inventory. I have a full list if anybody cares to look into it. But overall, I think it was a really good success. There was a lot of things learned. Challenges came when there was a windstorm or a rainstorm and having to go in and fix the lights. Also, we had lost, I want to say, about 6 to 7 strands. And then this initial pilot project, I mean, there's literally hundreds of strands that we hung, and I think that's, you know, in all cases, 6 out of the lot is not bad. And I'm hoping that, you know, there was a little bit of draw that the business ownership downtown saw from that pilot project. And I know there was a lot of buzz about it as well from the visitorship. So that's concluded. We also are working, as far as the MSD is concerned, you know, it's been a very slow month. So we're working on more special projects as ambassador contacts with hospitality efforts, or kind of taking back a little bit, taking the back seat. The team is working consistently to clean alleyways, do pressure washing, and we've also been trying to keep up with some of the cleaning efforts around some of the small just camp outs that some of the in-house folks have made throughout the district. I want to thank Lieutenant Nichols and team for and you know, just give Jack a little bit of praise too, and the county a little praise for helping get 2 of our unhoused downtown into housing and shelter. You know, regardless of the need for, you know, getting those 2 out of everybody's hair, it's a great support for them, and especially when we're looking at days and days on end of temperatures being below freezing. The warming shelter downtown is open. It has been widely successful. 90 people were at the first one. I know we do have the downtown day shelter still open Mondays and Wednesdays. That's been very helpful for the folks who visit there and also for our business ownership. So just some good initiatives all around there. We do have an initiative coming up. WDI has recently approved leading and executing a campaign to try and drive some of the traffic off of 3rd Street downtown. I'm hoping to work with the city to try and create and place banners along 3rd Street to encourage motorists during the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge closure. Details are still being worked out. We still need approval from the city to do that. But I am working very hard to try and initiate that campaign. We'll be going, Sam will be approaching DBA about joining hands on this as well. I think overall, organizational wise, business community wise, we need to support each other through this. The bridge closure will potentially drive some new visitors downtown, I think, but it also will drive some business out. So whatever we can do to try and reduce the impact, a negative impact on our business community. This may be one initiative that as a way we can help support a proactive approach to a negative situation. And I think that's all in the updates for me. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. All right, and with that, are there any other updates from the committee? Questions, concerns? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Scott?
Yep.
Your motion, second. All right, all those in favor say aye. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.